Hey, everybody, I've got AP back, and due to the fact that he wouldn't quit talking in the last video, I had to shut that one off and make another one. He can talk, and everything he says is worth listening to be honest with you. And I want to get him on one more time and ask him, what would you say to the multitude of people that are waking up right now? New preppers are coming on the scene, and they don't even know they're preppers yet. They just know something's wrong, and they know that this can't go on forever. So what do you think, brother? What is the step number one? What do you have to say to that person?
Yeah, great question, man. Hey, thank you for inviting me back too, man. All right, because I didn't even know before that you had stopped recording, and I just kept talking for like half an hour and then realized that you weren't there anymore. But anyways, that's a great question, and it's one that I like to share with people that have just woken up to the fact. And let me say that when I say waking up, it's not a degrading term. It's not putting you down, in other words. It's just that it takes a lot of people time to realize that the world that they thought they lived in really maybe not all that they thought that it was. All right. And then we have to wake up to the fact that government is not going to be there for us when we need them like they say they are. If you're not woken up to that fact, then you really need to wake up. That's step number one. You need to wake up to the fact that you need to be prepared, right, for anything and everything, but as long as it's something that you can control. So what I tell new preppers is this. What I would do is I would make a list, right? And I know this sounds boring, but stay with me. When you wake up in the morning, what do you do? What's the first thing that you do? You go turn on that light switch, or at least that's the first thing I do. I walk down the stairs, I go to the bathroom, I turn on the light switch. Okay, write down on a piece of paper that electricity is one of the utilities that you depend on. You depend on electricity in order to live your everyday life. So write that down on a piece of paper, electricity. Then what do you do after you relieve yourself, right? You go wash your hands, you brush your teeth, you do personal hygiene, you turn on the water. Water is a utility that you depend on. So what I'm getting at here is you take a piece of paper and you jot down all of the utilities that you depend on that you don't personally control. Do you personally control your electric power? No, it comes through the grid. Write it down. Same thing with water. Do you personally control the infrastructure that provides gasoline for your vehicle and your other equipment? No, jot it down, gasoline. Do you personally control the infrastructure that provides you with food, i.e. supermarkets, stores, etc.? No, write it down, supermarkets. Do you personally control your own self-defense? Do you rely on law enforcement officers to come to you whenever you need them? You rely on them? Okay, jot down self-defense, etc. You do that with everything. And then you take a look at that list and you prioritize it by the means which provide life first. So what's the first thing that you need that provides you with life, that keeps you alive? Water, right? So water's on top. Then after that, everybody has to eat. So you got food. In my instance here where I live, I need heating fuel. So I got that third, because without heating fuel, I can't heat my home in the winter. So I've got that. Then you just bring it down, prioritize, and that's how you start working on it. You start creating a backup to your infrastructures that you rely on that you can't control. Because whenever the grid goes down, you cannot personally control that. If the grid went down right now, I could not control that my electric company stopped sending that current through the wires. But I can control that I have a solar generator that I've got hooked up to my computer right now. And if the grid goes down, my computer will keep working and we won't lose this live stream. I can control that I have a solar generator or a backup system hooked up to my house heater, which requires electricity in order to run its peripherals. That way, if the grid goes down, my house stays heated and stays warm. I can control that. So do those things that you can control in order to back up those infrastructure that you rely on every day. And you do it slow and steady. I always say slow and steady wins the race. If you are of means and you can go out tomorrow and get every single prep that you need for the next 5 years, God bless you. I would. I definitely would. I'm actually putting out a video later on, and I don't know, maybe out before this actual video goes out, where someone actually sent me a list of of all of the food stuff that they've prepped in the last year or so, and the price of when they purchased it and the price today. And you'll be amazed at how much this thing here has been devalued, right? You'll be amazed.
Oh yeah, you'll beat the stock market.
It's been cut down. See, I actually cut this one on purpose because last year this was a full $100 bill, but this year you can only buy this much of what you could buy last year with the exact same $100 bill.
Yeah, if you really think about it like this, if you've got $100,000 in the bank, it will only buy $80,000 worth of goods and services. So you know it's being dwindled away. You'll beat the stock market by just buying food.
If you're lucky. I call bank accounts the inferno of inflation. A bank account is like the inferno of inflation, or because it burns away your purchasing power, or you can also look at the dollar as an ice cube that you take out of the freezer, put it on your counter, and you'll see it start melting away. That's inflation as well.
Exactly right. And I talk to people all the time about, hey, and I know they've got money. I know they've got money, and I know they've got it in cash. It's like, hey, what do you think about turning a little bit of that into precious metals? That way you can kind of hedge against inflation.
Oh, wait a minute.
They don't want to hear it at all.
No, you can't eat precious metals. What are you talking about? You can't eat silver or gold. I'm being hyperbolic or sarcastic.
No, I hear it all the time.
I hear so often. The thing is, and look, I'm very proud of this because this is my first one I ever got. What people don't understand is that this guy right here, I don't know if you'll be able to see on my camera, but this guy right here, that's an eagle.
That's nice.
This guy right here can purchase, this has about, I don't know, a week's worth of my labor, or, you know, this has a week's worth of my labor. And I
bet it's more than that.
Well, what I could buy with this, the day that I traded in my fiat for this, I can buy today. And I'll be able to buy a year from now. So you don't lose this right here. It's not this. This is God's money. This came from the ground. God gave us
absolutely.
This is man's money. So you know that saying in the Bible, because people use this on me all the time. They say, one day man will be throwing their silver onto the street.
Which is completely misconstrued. I hear that all the time.
It's true.
Yeah, but that's not.
No, but this is how I interpret it. It's true. They will. It says that one day man will be throwing their silver onto the street. This is man's silver, not God's silver. God's silver is this right here. This is God's silver. This is God's money. This is man's money. And one day man will be throwing this onto the street because it will be worthless. Just like every fiat currency that's ever existed in the history of mankind, this will be worthless. There may come a time of famine where people will never trade this for food, but this will always have value, whereas this will not.
Well, how do we know that?
Look at history, study history. You study history and you study the past and you'll be able to tell what's coming in the future.
There's been over 600 fiat currencies that have returned to their intrinsic value. Zero. It always ends the same way. Every time. Always. There's no case there it hasn't been the same. And I get this all the time. We can't eat it. You can't do it. Most of the time, those people don't have any money to buy it. So they try to, and if you're one of those people, I'm not talking down to you, but try to get out of that.
They do have money to buy it because you can buy this.
Right. That's you can buy constitutional silver.
I talked to someone, this was several years ago. I talked to someone. He was a pizza delivery guy. Every single night after he got done delivering pizzas, he would go to the coin shop and he would get 5 silver dimes every single day. He did that for years. So anybody can do it. And you want me to get into I love talking about this. All right, Chris.
I do too, man. And hey, if anybody wants some, my wife is a broker for Miles Franklin. We beat everybody's price almost every time. I'd say way more than 90%. So talk to her personally. She'll hook you up. But yeah, talk about it, man.
Okay. So I like to explain people that are not in the know exactly what this is. All right.
Fiat currency?
Yeah, fiat currency, but maybe not what it is, but what is it intended to do? Okay. And how it is that you should look at this. Because when people see this, they say, oh, it's money. Okay, I usually call it money because I don't want to say fiat currency every single time. So because people know this as money, right? But if this is money, then what is money? Then what is money if this is money? Let's make believe that gold and silver don't exist and that this is money, all right? Money is something that you trade your labor for. Money is something that is supposed to hold value, supposed to hold wealth, so that you can then trade it for something else that you need or want, right? So let's say you make $20 an hour and you earn $100, right? Let's say $20 an hour take home, right, after taxes, and you earn $100. Well, it took 5 hours of your labor to earn that $100, right? Sure. Okay, so why is it that the labor that I traded for this $100 2 years ago can now only buy me about $60 worth of stuff? Why is that? It's because the reason fiat currency was brought into existence, right, through the Federal Reserve. I know that the Federal Reserve is now the first central bank the US has had, is the third, I believe. But the reason that it was done, the reason why they fought for it so hard, and the reason that Andrew Jackson took a bullet to stop it while he was alive, the reason it was brought into life is because it is the best vehicle that exists that will steal your wealth, that will steal your labor. And your labor, ladies and gentlemen, is your time. And your time is your freedom. So when you work for this and you keep this and only this and don't turn it into tangible assets and don't turn it into food, water, precious metals, self-defense, all that kind of stuff that you can hold. What you're doing is you're letting the money changers, those that will one day throw this out into the streets because it's going to be worthless, you're letting them take your value, take your wealth, and transfer it onto themselves. That's why this was created. And this thing right here, this national debt that we have, if you think that will ever get paid off, the way that the system was created is so that the debt could never, not in 1 trillion years, if the earth was here 100 trillion years from today, and the system by which we are monetarily governed is still here, that debt would not be paid off. Even if the government stopped borrowing money today, the debt would not be paid off ever in 1 trillion years. And why is that? I'm going to explain to you one more thing, because this is so very important for you to understand how corrupt the system is. Let's say that I'm the Federal Reserve, Chris, and let's say that you're the government. And once the Federal Reserve Act was enacted, I believe it was passed into law in 1913 and then actually put into place in 1914, same time as the income tax, right? So let's say you're the government and I say, hey, I'm the Federal Reserve, Mr. Government. You say you need to borrow $100 and you say, yes. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and be very generous and lend it to you at 1% interest, okay? So then I print $100. The first $100 that has ever been printed out of thin air. I do it and I lend it to you. Then let's say a year passes by and the federal government has to pay me back that debt. Well, now the federal government owes me what? $100 and $101, right? Because I'm charging 1% interest. Well, if the Federal Reserve is the only entity that can print Federal Reserve notes, where's the government going to get that dollar's worth of interest that it owes me? That dollar's worth of interest that it owes me has to also be created into reality by printing it out of thin air, which means that you're creating more debt.
It's a humongous Ponzi scheme.
Exactly what it is.
Humongous.
And it will
fractional reserve banking. I should do a video on fractional reserve banking.
Well, you know what the thing is, Chris, is fractional reserve banking. If you take a look at it, most banks don't even need to keep a reserve anymore. It's gone down to zero, where they don't even have to keep a percentage.
I knew it was 10%, but I didn't know it was.
No, before it used to be, and double check this, all right? I think I did a video on this a year ago or so. Before it used to be, people always say 10%, but it used to depend on how much capital the bank had. It depended on how much money they actually transacted in. And the higher it was, the 10% was the highest one. But most banks were like 3.5%, 4%. But now I don't think they need anything at all. They can lend out 100% of the money they collect.
Your fiat currency that you've been holding up is fiat stands for because I said so.
Yep, by edict. Yep.
And it is being debased faster than it's ever been in history.
Yep.
The BRICS nation, Brazil, China, South Africa, and India. I'm not leaving one out, am I? I don't think so. They're coming up with they're working together outside the US dollar. This is terrifying to anybody that understands this. This is big news.
It's going to be a day of reckoning, my friend. It really is. People do not understand.
And now the Swiss, Travis just, a friend of mine, the Ninja, just did a video a couple days, maybe yesterday, on maybe the Swiss is having a yuan-backed bond. I mean, the globe is de-dollarizing. Yeah. I mean, it is getting faster and faster, and 90% of the move is in the last 10% of the time. I mean, we are right there. So if you have a pile of cash, buy, like AP says, food. And a lot of people say, well, I don't have any money to buy food, but they've got a share of Google stock.
Get a second job if you have to.
What about
it just depends. Yeah. Well, I get those a lot. I don't have the income. It depends where your priorities are. Okay. I was talking with you, Chris, here a couple of days ago, and I'm like, man, I'm in a really good part of my life. I've sacrificed all the things that I felt I needed to sacrifice so that I can be living the life the way I want to live it now. So I'm glad that I was talking to Chris, telling him there was one time in my life where I had to be the no man, the no man of my household. Can we go to a vacation here? No, we can't. We got to pay off our debt. Can we do this? No. Can we do that? No, we have to pay off our debt. But then once we became debt free after sacrificing for years, now I can be the yes man. Can we go here? Yes, absolutely. Let's do it. Can I get this? Yeah, go get it.
Delayed gratification.
Absolutely. Delayed gratification. 100% it's an art that has been lost. Yeah. And what people don't understand is that the dollar, the US Federal Reserve note, will not last forever. And the day that it goes to zero, all right, the day that it defaults, whatever you want to call it, whatever scenario you want to put on it, people are going to suffer, not just here in the United States, but all over the world. They are going to suffer. Why? Because it's not just a dollar problem. If you go back to when I started talking about what the Federal Reserve note is, it's your labor, it's your time. So when the dollar goes, it's going to be a resource problem. If you take a look at a dollar, you can also look at it as it being calories, because your labor equals calories. Your labor equals BTUs, if you want to look at it that way.
Your energy, everything's energy.
You're more of a scientific person. So without that vehicle that we can transfer our energy, it's going to be a resource problem. And a lot of people are going to suffer, and a lot of people are not going to make it. Because the reason why the world population has been able to grow as it has in the last, 50 years, is because we have been stealing resources from the future by printing money now. Without that printed money, we couldn't buy all those resources that we took from the future. So we've stolen so much energy from the future that the gig is up, and get ready to pay the piper, because he's going to collect one way or another. And that's unfortunate.
It is very unfortunate. And to you guys that I know, I've got several people that have their head in the sand, and you start talking about this stuff, and they're looking at you like a cow at a new gate, and it doesn't, they're not really wanting to hear it. Don't worry, they will wake up. And when they do, hopefully it's not too late, but they're going to wake up. The earlier, the better, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. And what I would tell on the financial part, what I would tell people that that don't even want to think about it, because I know somebody, I had a boss who's got a whole bunch of money in paper and in digits, but I finally broke him after like 4 years, and he finally went and bought some silver. And he's telling me about all this money that he's got. I'm talking about like hundreds and hundreds, probably $1 million or more between him and his wife. And I'm like, why don't you stop contributing to your, I'm not a financial advisor. Why don't you stop contributing to your 401k for 1 year and put that in gold and silver? And then after that, if you want to contribute your 401k again, go ahead. Because they were contributing the max between both of them. I was like, just 1 year, put it away. And then if you want to continue, go ahead and keep continuing. Contributing to your 401k. You know what he said? He says, well, because I'm scared. And I'm like, what are you scared of? I'm scared that it'll all fall apart. I'm like, that's why I'm telling you what I'm telling you, so you can be hedged either way. If everything is great, if everything is perfect, you've got your $1 million. Beautiful. Congratulations. But if it all falls apart, that precious metals that you preserved your wealth with will multiply and make up for what you lost in your 401k. And he said, you know what his answer was? He says, I'm just not going to look at my statements anymore.
Yeah. Well,
that's
keep
his
in
answer.
mind, I like to say this, and I know a lot of my subscribers hear me say this all the time. In 2017 in Venezuela, gold was 11,500. In 2018, it went to 300 million. But keep in mind, the price of eggs did a 15,000 X. They went up by 15,000, a factor of 15,000, not 15,000%. Yeah. So eggs and gold do really good in hyperinflation scenarios, and there's never been a fiat currency that ever not had that.
In Venezuela's case, silver did well also. I did a video on this, I think like 3 years ago, where I did all the calculations, and if I remember right, 1 ounce of silver in 2012, which was the year that their financial collapse started, was 2012. That's when things started turning south. 1 ounce of silver was like 256 bolivars. And when I did that video, I think it was in 2018, 2019, 1 ounce of silver was 3 million. So I don't know what it is today. So that 1 ounce of silver at that one time would feed a family of 4 for 4 days, 3 square meals each.
Yeah.
1 ounce of silver. It doesn't sound like a lot, but try, 1 ounce of silver feeding a family of 4 for 4 days. That means that if you put away 5 ounces of silver or 6 ounces of silver a month, if someone would have done that in Venezuela back when silver was, equivalent to maybe a half a day's wages, if they put away 5 or 6 ounces a month, they'd be eating today a lot better than they are, I would say. And
well, AP, go ahead.
Chris, let me finish it off.
No,
I gotta finish
it
off by this, all right? Because I didn't finish my point. For those people that don't want to preserve their wealth or don't have wealth to preserve, like in precious metals and things like that, at the very minimum, go out there and get yourself a few months worth of food. At least you'll have some food put away. I've got a couple of videos that show you how you can spend $100 so that you can go out there and just be able to sustain life. You're not going to be eating like a king for $100 for a month and a half or so. So you can take $100 right now and go spend it on key items that will sustain your life for about a month and a half for $100. When I did that video, it was $100 for 2 months, but now it's about a month and a half.
Wow.
Right? Stuff that you can get.
That video
so
aged well.
Do that. At least do that so you can at least maintain some sovereignty and maybe hopefully be able to wait out whatever crisis comes next. Because remember, ladies and gentlemen, governments thrive on crisis because they never let a crisis go to waste. The more power they have and the less that you have, the better they are. And I'll leave it at that.
Absolutely, brother. Well, thanks for coming on. And
thank you.
Guys, if you hadn't checked out Alaska Prepper, he's a heck of a guy, and he's got a great channel, and he's got a big heart. So have an awesome, awesome day. We'll see you in the next one. Later, brother.